It's our great pleasure to welcome to our 2022 Online Trend Summit chef, author and social media sensation Poppy O'Toole. You'll have no doubt seen Poppy on TikTok and on Instagram sharing her recipes and hacks that started in COVID. But today, Poppy joins us to talk about that journey, her purpose, why she does what she does, her new book, Poppy Cooks, the role of social media in food, and the sense of responsibility that comes with having such an influential social following. And of course, much, much more. So thank you so much for joining us today, Poppy. It's great to welcome you to our virtual stage.
Oh no, I'm glad to be here. I mean, it feels weird because this is a fake background and I'm definitely not on a stage, but it's very exciting.
Brilliant. Well, welcome. It's so good to have you here. Just a note to participants, if you're participating in today's summit as a Trend Hub subscriber, you can discover more about the topics covered in this discussion in the 23-24 Food and Drink and Cuisines and Ingredients Trends framework on Trend Hub. Let's start at the beginning. Tell us about your beginnings. Where did you start out? Why did you even become a chef?
Yeah, so I grew up in Birmingham and my mom and my nan were very much food people, and it was a very matriarchal family. So, you know, watching them cooking all the time, whether it was for good reasons, for bad reasons, or anything like that, every kind of occasion, food was around.
Yeah.
And as a child, I realized that I loved eating. That's my main goal in life, is to eat my way through everything. So I realized that if I wanted to eat more, I had to be in the kitchen. And I put two and two together and I started helping out.
Yeah.
Any which way that I could, so that I could just, like, you know, get a little slice of ham here and there when I wanted to. And that's where it all started for me. I just fell in love with food. And then I got to 15, 16 and I started working. So I was working in a care home in the kitchens, and I was working in a pub. I was behind the bar. Well, no, I was waitressing for a little while, and then I begged and became pot wash, and then I worked my way up, and I was like, please, I can do this one chocolate tart and I know you're going to love it. And they let me in the kitchen finally, and they enjoyed it, and they then kind of employed me as a commie. So I was there, you know, so from 16 to about 18 in these two jobs, and then I saw an apprenticeship come up in Birmingham for this Michelin-starred restaurant, and I was like, oh, I think I might be, I was 17, I think, actually, when this happened. And I was like, I might be a bit too old for an apprenticeship. And all my friends had gone to uni and I was still working. I was like, well, you know what? I might as well have a go and see what happens.
Yeah.
So then I went through this process. He had like a 6-week process of going to college and stuff to get this job, get this apprenticeship. And only 2 people were going to get it. And I didn't get it. And then at the end, the head chef went, actually, Poppy, I want you as my wild card. So I was the 3rd person to get this apprenticeship. And then I stayed there for about 3.5 years.
Oh, wow. Can I ask where that was?
Yeah, it's called Pennell's.
Okay. Glen Pennell. Yeah, amazing. Oh, wow. And now, obviously, so you're a Michelin trained chef. Can you just tell us a little bit more about where that journey is taken to you? And obviously you mentioned Glen and Pennell's. You know, who are some of the other inspirational people that you've kind of met on that journey and worked with?
So I moved around a little bit then. So I stayed in Birmingham for a little bit and then went to a place called the Wilderness. And that was more like, you know, I was allowed to kind of like develop recipes a little bit more there and dishes. And then I moved to London because I've been working 70 hours a week for about 4 or 5 years. And I was like, I want a bit of a break. So I found a job in a bank doing their client dining. So it was still fine dining stuff, but it was just Monday to Friday. And it was like 7 till 5 p.m. or something. It was bank hours.
Yeah.
It was incredible. It was so good because I still got to do all the things that I love, but I got to go home at night and have the weekends off and have a bit of a social life. And then I ended up in this place in Mayfair, which was where everything kind of finished, but also started for me.
And forgive me for saying so, but you're no longer chefing in a conventional sense. You're a Michelin star trained digital food sensation. You've got 3 million followers across all of your channels. How did that happen? Just, simply.
You tell me, I have absolutely no idea. No, so basically I lost my job in 2020 because of lockdown, and in that time I'd started making a few videos on TikTok, on the social media platform, which is just videos, no other content on there. And it was kind of like I wanted my little brother and sister to think I was cool, because they were like 10 and 12 at the time. So I was like, oh yeah, I'll get on the app with you. And it was from there that things just kicked off. People just enjoyed some of the recipes. Fast forward a few months and one or two little jobs come in, because I've got about 50,000 followers on TikTok. You know, this was massive. I thought this was huge.
Yeah.
And I was just doing little videos of what a chef eats in a day. They did really well. You know, people like to see what people are, they like vlogging, they like food vlogs. And then I just did one recipe of potatoes off the cuff, crispy little roasted Parmesan potatoes. And it was my first video to get 1 million views.
Wow.
Which was huge, like massive. I was like, what's going on? This is terrifying, but incredible at the same time. I'm viral. This is it. I've made it. Then we had to go into another lockdown in November of 2020.
Yeah.
And I was like, right, I've got 25 days where people will not be leaving the house. And what can I do to keep them entertained? And I was like, I'm just going to do 25 days of potato recipes. Like, that's what they want to see. Let's, you know, I know 25 different potato recipes from where I've worked and different things that I've seen. So I just said to everyone, I was like, right, you got 25 days potato recipes coming, join in, starting on November, blah, blah, blah. And within a week, I got like 50,000 followers. The week later, I had another, so I had actually 200,000 followers altogether. And I was like, whoa, this is going up very fast. Like, these videos, they weren't going like mega viral, millions of views, but they were massive in terms of people just wanting to keep coming back for more for potatoes. And I was like, what is going on? People love potatoes. And then about halfway through it, or just towards the end, I did a compilation. So loads of images and videos of the potatoes I'd already done. And I got rid of my Brummie accent and I spoke quite posh over it and just said, hello and welcome to Potato TikTok. And I just made this little area of TikTok, which is all about potatoes, a little space, safe space for people. And it literally went from 200,000 followers at night. And I woke up in the morning, I had 1 million followers. And I was like,
wow, that's extraordinary. I'm imagining that you're, you know, being really strategic about this, but from what you're saying, you're just feeding off what people are asking for, you know, just what the need of people was at that moment. But what is it that you're now, I guess you've got your head around a bit what it is people are looking for. Why is it you continue to do what you do? What's your, you know, you might grandly call it a purpose, but what's, you know, beyond the commercial success, why are you continuing to do it? I
didn't realize I liked teaching people so much until this happened. I think food's got this such a like, had a bit of a character assassination almost. You know, everyone in the food scene a few years ago was like, it had to be perfect and you had to be like really aggressive towards it. And that's not how a lot of people learn. You know, a lot of people need constructive feedback rather than just being criticized. So I just want to give people the confidence to get in the kitchen and enjoy themselves and see it less as a chore and more of like an enjoyable release of stress. You know, it can be, apart from the washing up, the cooking side of it and the eating can be quite good. The washing up is where I draw the line. I can never be happy.
You also make it okay to make mistakes, I think, as well. You kind of normalize that, because obviously in a Michelin star environment, there are, you know, you will know better than anyone how many iterations will go into a dish. You'll go over it time after time after time after time to get that perfection. You can't get that straight off the bat. You've got to learn and make mistakes and get a feel for food, haven't you? And I think you've made it okay. That's all right, and you've made that acceptable, which I think is really lovely.
Yeah, I just don't want people to be scared, because when you're scared, you're going to make mistakes and then you'll never touch it again. Do you know what I mean? Like the amount of times I've messed up in kitchens and in my own kitchen is quite hellish, really. It's quite embarrassing, but it's all about just being able to kind of get on with it and realize that at the end of the day, it will still be something hopefully half edible. At least you tried, at least you had to go. And that's the best you can do. And then if you can go back and try and make it better because you learned from what you did last time, that you know, it shouldn't be something to be looked down upon that you make a mistake. It should be something that should be praised that you had another go.
Yeah, absolutely. I've got to ask you about your book, Poppy Cooks, which I love, but it's it's different in its structure compared to a regular recipe book. It focuses on a series of core skills that you then use as a building block, or that those, you know, home cooks can use as building blocks to create different dishes. Why did you structure it in that way and decide to take an alternative approach?
Well, even though I've been a chef for 10 years, sometimes when I open a recipe book, I go, like, whoa, there's so much here, like there's so much to do, there's so many ingredients, there's so many things that I need to organize to do this one recipe. And you can get a little bit overwhelmed, and I think people who maybe haven't worked in kitchens for 10 years would get even more overwhelmed, especially if it's, you know, they're not particularly confident in cooking. So I really wanted to kind of give people building blocks. You know, I don't want, you know, it's great that people will open my book and maybe, you know, remember a few recipes, but if they can remember how to make a tomato sauce, or I think I might remember how to make a bechamel from that book, or a mayonnaise if they really need to, or a custard. You know, if they can take that away, even if they don't open the book again, but use it in their, you know, in their own Rolodex of their mind into recipes, then that's all I wanted. You know, I just want people to be able to have an idea on how to make more food at home.
And what you were saying earlier as well, it feels like you're sharing, these are life skills. I think these types of recipes, they're foundational recipes, aren't they? Which if you learn how to, if you take, as you say, those 3 or 4 things and you learn how to do them from your book, you'll take them through the rest of your life, won't you?
Yeah, it's exactly that. And that's one thing that's great about social media, because whilst I wrote the book, I was obviously still on this trajectory of social media influencer status. So I was being able to see what people were a little bit maybe embarrassed to ask about, like how do you make a tomato sauce, or how do you make a white sauce? Because you know, it can be quite easy to just open a packet, add some milk, and you've got a white sauce. But people wanted to know these things, so I was able to kind of have a two-way conversation with strangers over the internet of like, what would you like to see? Like, what is it that you want to know? And I was able to put that through myself into a book that hopefully taught them how to do the things that they wanted to learn about.
I think it's brilliant. I think it's an absolutely fabulous book, and both my teenage daughters absolutely love it. I think it's brilliant. They love their approach. It really resonates with that generation. I just want to ask you a bit about, you mentioned it then, about being the potato queen, and you're absolutely known for being the potato queen, but I have to ask, why the humble potato? Why?
Well, I mean, it is absolutely fantastic. It's not really humble, is it? It's one of the prized possessions of the world. Like, everybody loves potatoes, and so does every culture, every food culture. There's always a potato dish. You know, every cuisine has a potato dish. So I think it really resonates with people around the world, because everyone knows what potato is. You know, they are cheap, they're versatile, they're not scary foods in any way. They're not like intimidating.
Comforting as well, aren't they?
Very, very comforting. So I think it struck a chord with people to just, it's fun, it's enjoyable, it's not threatening in any way. I really want to show people how to make the most of their like money at the minute as well. The cost of living crisis is absolutely ridiculous. It's terrible what's going on. So if I can try and help, it's, you know, you have to go with the times. I'm not going to be here making a blooming delicious Chateaubriand with, I don't know, truffle butter. That's not going to be happening, because it's not attainable. It's not attainable for me. Like, no way. So, you know, you have to really keep up with what's actually happening in the world. So what I really want to be able to do is bring into, you know, tips on how to make your money go further, how to make food go further, how not to waste your food. And as much as it's like really, you know, some chefs would be like, no, you know, use a microwave, it's the cheapest way of like cooking at the minute. Like, we need to look at these things, alternatives to people, and I'm there to help, because I don't, you know, you hear some chefs go, oh, you know, I heard a chef promoting their cookbook about how to like save money. I was like, well, okay, don't promote a cookbook then, you know, put it online, sort of thing. Which is, I know that I promote my cookbook, but I'm not at the minute. Like, I'll give you some recipes, let me help you out.
You're right, it really does strike a chord when, you know, you hear people talking about alternative cooking methods. You know, I'm not going to turn my oven on, I'm not going to have a roast because you know, a roast is, it's a foundational part of our food culture, but people saying they're not going to turn their oven on because it's so expensive to cook everything in an oven, and that says that, yeah, we're in dire times.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, and that's what you need to keep up with that, and not be in like in the clouds of like, oh, it's all fine. It's not fine. It's definitely not fine.
What is it about your approach to cooking that you think is so appealing to, well, millions of followers? What is it? What is that kind of common thread, do you think?
Partly because I do have a background of professionally trained. You know, I'm not just, I do have a knowledge and a profession behind me, which I think people kind of appreciate sometimes, that they, you know, that I've put in the graft a bit to help out. I think being able to kind of get that kind of personability through, and just not, like, I talk absolute rubbish sometimes, and my voiceovers, they're just manic, like none of them make sense, but I think people just get that on a level of
you keep it real, don't you?
It sounds like a really big-headed thing to say, but I'm quite normal. Oh, that sounds terrible, but you know, if you know, one doth protest too much, that I'm very normal, but here we are.
Yeah. Who do you think, who follows Poppy Cooks? What kind of cook, I suppose, follows Poppy?
Well, I think my kind of demographic is millennial, Gen Z millennial. And it's, you know, people who, I think a lot of people, I get a lot of boyfriends, not in a weird way, being like, oh, I really want to impress my girlfriend, like I follow your cooking, like they want to, they want to impress their girlfriend. So I love that. And then we, you know, a lot of different people who just want to do a little bit better in the kitchen, you know, they have a mild knowledge and they know what they want to make, but they just need a little bit more to go a bit further to see if they can take it up a level. That's what I think. And also I'm very, 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 I love it. I get a lot of kids, like actual children, who just love potatoes, and they just want to follow because they want to get their mom and dad to help them make, you know, mash or roast potatoes or whatever. So it's really lovely. It's a lovely thing to see, and the messages that I get are fantastic. They're so beautiful. But it doesn't really have an age bracket. It's all just nice food.
Obviously, you're immersed in the world of social media. What do you think, in your experience, what are the sort of positive and, you know, not so positive, the negative side of social media and food? What, in your experience, how do you see that?
I mean, the positive side is that I've managed to make a whole career out of this now. This is fantastic. Like, that's a massive positive. And also, you know, being able to teach people around the world how to get better at cooking is incredible. But there is always going to be a negative. There's a negative of working in a kitchen. So there's going to be a negative of doing stuff online. You know, it does come with, you are opening yourself up to a lot of criticism, a lot of hate. But it's, you know, once you get over that first hurdle, I think I just tried, you just tried things. I did a watermelon steak and people just really did not like it. And I'm like, I know that it's going to get attention for it, you know, because people don't like anything that's not meat, or I don't know, very strange. But I had to have a little bit of a break. So I was like, whoa, this is like a lot. And it was just kind of being able to cope with criticism from something you didn't, you know, it's not meant to be offensive or
you had good intentions, but it's sparked something negative in somebody.
And it's all very like, oh, you've got very strong opinions about some watermelon going in a pan, like, wow. But yeah, there was a few times where I've had to be like, let's take a step back a little bit. But once you get past a point where you go, these people, they don't really care that much, they're just looking for an argument for no reason, and kind of you have to roll with it. There's nothing you can do apart from carry on, and it pisses more people off, which is good.
And I guess when you've got the kind of followings that you have, the law of averages says that you're going to get that, and you just can't please all the people all the time, I guess, can you? But I would imagine when the messages or whatever are directed at you, you have to, I'm imagining you have to try and somehow not make it personal.
There is there's a little bit like Beyonce and Sasha Fierce now, and like there's Poppy, and then there's like Poppy Cooks, which is a little bit different in terms of like what is put online is obviously me, but I try not to always read it now. You know, I know that my recipes are good, I know that people enjoy them, and I don't go too much further, because you know, if it's something that some people dislike, I'm like, okay, fine, you dislike it, that's your value to your opinion, but you don't have to get personal, like, so,
exactly.
so I just kind of ignore it now. There's nothing you can do, there's literally nothing you can do that everybody in the world's gonna like that's never going to happen, and if it did, then it'd be really boring anyway, so.
Exactly. I mean, TikTok's your primary platform, obviously, but what is it about TikTok, do you think, that, you know, how is it different from the others, and why do you think it works so well for you?
I think it's just that short form video. It's just, you know, you can go through, and after, you know, 10 videos in or whatever, you can almost learn something. I don't know, I'm like, I come out with facts, and I'm like, where did that fact come from? Oh, it's a TikTok that I read, you know, that I watched a few days ago. So I think people would just really enjoy getting that kind of quick information that can be processed quickly, and if I can get, you know, someone to look at a delicious recipe for more than 10 seconds, then they're taking away something. Hopefully they're taking away a little bit of knowledge.
What direction do you see social media going in? What do you think, you know, what's your view on the next 6 years or the next 10 years or whatever?
Well, there's been more of a look at, obviously, short form video. That's going to keep on going. I can't see it stopping. I think we might end up losing maybe the more kind of like blog-esque sort of things, and the pictures. People don't really mind about pictures anymore, but it's all about short form videos. And also people like a professional influencer, and they want more of that kind of information through the people who they're following on social media, rather than just maybe lifestyle. I think it's still going to be very important. There's going to have a massive market, but I think people love that kind of talent background to
a bit more the authenticity and the I guess the credibility behind what you're saying. Yeah,
exactly that, the credibility behind it. And I think we're going to go more into that sort of market. It's going to get bigger and bigger. I can't see it ever stopping.
Where you are now, having such a huge influence and following in food, I have to ask you, does that come with the sense of responsibility? And if it does, what does that responsibility mean for you?
As a chef and as a food lover, always want to be doing the best by what my passion is. And you know, there's a lot of responsibility in food now, especially with sustainability. There's the climate crisis, there's the cost of living crisis, which all centers a lot around the production of food. It's right in there in the middle of everything. So you know, as a person, on a personable level, I really want to start making a difference in the way that I eat in general. You know, I try and cut down on my meat intake, because I'm addicted to meat, but I do, you know, definitely try and stop that, you know, eat more sustainable fish, you know, trying to do free range chicken, which is extravagantly expensive at the minute. But, you know, there's those little differences. And if I can try and bring that through in some of my content as well, and maybe influence people to cut down on their, you know, intake and look at more sustainable ways of living, then that's what I'll try and do, because everyone in the food industry and hospitality industry has to look at that now, because it's imminent that we need to do something needs to change. So, you know, I work with brands like Corn, for instance, or there was in the what was the summit, the eco summit, I can't remember, in Scotland, in Glasgow last year.
COP.
COP, that was it. I went to COP, and I made the first ever meat that was made in a test tube hot dog. Like, we got to try the first ever one. It's real meat, but it's animal free, it's cruelty free, sorry, and it's, you know, like 2% of the emissions that really would be if you were getting it from a cow. It was just like incredible, and it was exactly the same. It was literally like eating a normal hot dog. So, you know, I try and get involved in these sort of things, because something's going to have to give at some point, and if we can make a difference now, then we should.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you've touched on, my next question actually was going to, or my penultimate question was going to be, there are big challenges in food, particularly when it comes to some of the things that, you've talked about food systems, education, just engagement with food and drink and cooking, you know, the number of people in families and young people in food poverty. What do you think that you can do, and how you can kind of leverage your presence and your influence to be able to tackle some, or do not tackle, but do your bit, I suppose, to raise awareness of those?
It's just making sure it's spoken about. You know, we need to. I'm very much aware that I am a middle class white woman. Like, this is what I am. I'm never going to pretend that I'm not, but I need to always talk about it and be very much open in terms of, like, we are in a serious crisis in the cost of living, and children and families are in serious food poverty. Like, it's terrible.
Yeah.
And there needs to be people just constantly talking about it, because it's very easy to forget about it. It's very easy to go, well, you know what, I could go down to a Waitrose, I'm all right. No, you're not. People aren't okay. Like, this is not a climate that everyone should just be comfortable in. We should be trying to do something. So, like I said, if I can try and just educate people, even if it's like putting some food into the food banks, anything that we can do. And if all I want to do is make sure that people can have a sustainable food that actually, you know, is good for you on the tightest budget that I can, you know, fathom, then I'm going to try and do that. And that's what, you know, the next few things that I'm going to be trying to post out on socials will be that. And it's difficult to balance, because, you know, I have certain jobs that I have to do as well with brand ambassadors and stuff like that, which you know, you have to try and balance in between making delicious looking food content, and that is, you know, going to sell, and then also actually thinking about what's going on in the world right now as well. So trying to join those two things together can be a bit of a struggle, but we make it work because it has to. But
well,
it's just
some of the things you were talking about a few moments ago, you talked about, you know, whether it's, you know, free range chicken or soy free chicken or whatever it is, I guess it's about how you can use your platforms as it. So yes, in that case, the raw material is more expensive, but if there's a net impact to that, and you can help people to perhaps use that chicken over, say, 4 meals as an example, you know, getting into, you know, making stocks and soups and broths and taking the, you know, prime bits for one particular meal. It's those types of things, isn't it, which you all feel comfortable with, because with your background, that's what you used to do day in, day out. You know, chefs are the most resourceful people when it comes to food, because they have to be, and it's getting that knowledge into the hands of the right people, isn't it?
It is. It's being able to spread the awareness of what you can actually do with food, but then also being, you know, unjudging of people who do not have the time to be doing that as well. There's so many things to balance, and again, you're never going to be able to satisfy everybody with what you're doing, but all I can do is open the door of, oh, I could do this, you know, there's options, and I want to be able to do that for people.
No one, and I'm sure you would agree, but no one could deny you the fact you've had a sensational 2 years coming from what was a really, you know, quite a dire situation to where you are now. What's, you know, what do the next couple of years hold? What can you tell us about what might be on the cards? What's next for Poppy Cooks?
Well, it's all very exciting. I've recorded it as a TV show on at the minute with me in, which is absolutely wild. I don't know how I've now managed to get from a little screen to like a big screen, which is just bizarre. I get all fidgety about it. I get all embarrassed. So I recorded that in January, and I've just recorded Young MasterChef.
Okay, that's exciting.
So it's 18 to 25-year-olds, and it's on BBC Three. It's going to be out next year, which is so exciting. So I've just finished recording that. So you know, after that, we'll see what happens. But there's still a part of me that would love to do pop-ups, and I've been saying it for years. I would love to I really want to do stuff like that, but it's so difficult to find the time to dedicate, you know, doing all that sort of stuff to get into a kitchen and start making my meals and selling tickets and that sort of stuff. So I still love to do that, and maybe one day I have an argument with my boyfriend all the time. He's like, "You're not going to open a restaurant." I'm like, I might open a restaurant. And he's like, "No, you do realize you haven't got enough time." And I'm like, "Yeah, but it'd be really good, wouldn't it?" And then so you know, there's always that one thought in the back of my head as a chef. You know,
that's just what I was going to say. You can't take being a chef out of a chef. That's it.
Absolutely. So maybe somewhere down the line, but we'll see. Hopefully I'm going to do what I've done up to this point, is just roll with it and wing it and see what happens. Because if I try and organize anything, I know for a fact it'll blow up in my face. So I just roll with it and hope for the best.
Well, I'm sure all of your followers and certainly all of our audiences today can't wait to see what the next couple of years brings. And I think I feel like we could talk for ages and ages, but a huge thank you from Team The Food People and our 2022 Summit audience for sharing your journey, for making us smile, sharing your anecdotes, your expertise and knowledge. We really, really appreciate it. So Poppy, thank you for joining us today. It's been a real pleasure to talk to you.
No, thank you very much for having me. And I hope you all enjoyed it. I hope I didn't talk on too much rubbish, but here we are.
Absolutely not. Thank you.